The Great Chamber on Nexus Prime was the largest room ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Its walls were made of living crystal that had grown for millions of years. Lights floated in the air like small stars. 400 different alien species sat in rows that went up so high that the top seats disappeared into shadow. Every species in the galaxy had heard the news. The humans had been found. Their little planet called Earth had been sending radio signals into space for over 100 years. Their nuclear explosions had been detected. Their primitive spacecraft had been observed. And now the hegemony of United Worlds had decided to call them here to answer questions when a new species was summoned to the council. It always brought large groups. Some brought hundreds of representatives. Others brought thousands. They brought gifts and military ships. They brought musicians and artists to show off their culture. They wanted to impress the council or make them afraid. Earth sent one man. Daniel Cole stood at the entrance of the chamber. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple dark suit and carried a small briefcase. Nothing else. No gifts, no soldiers. No fancy displays. High Arbiter Voroth was the leader of the council. He was a giant insect-like creature who stood 3 meters tall. His species had ruled 3 star systems for 40,000 years. When he saw the single human standing alone at the door, he made a clicking sound with his mouth parts. "The humans send an insult," Voroth said. His voice was translated by machines so everyone could understand. "One representative. They mock us." Next to him sat Ambassador Kreth, a creature made of flowing water held together by some kind of force field. "Maybe they are too poor to send more," Kreth said with amusement. "A species that has only had electricity for 200 years. What could they possibly show us?" Daniel walked forward. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye and sensor and tentacle in the room turned to watch this small, soft creature approach the speaking platform. He had no weapons. He had no armor. He had no protection at all, and he was smiling. "Thank you for inviting me," Daniel said. His voice was calm and friendly. "I understand you have some concerns about my species. I am here to talk about them." Voroth stood up to his full height. "You are here because we told you to come, human. We have been watching your species. We have studied your history. You are violent. You are dangerous. You cannot be trusted. This council will decide if humanity should be allowed to exist." Daniel nodded like this was a normal thing to say. "I understand. What exactly worries you about us?" For the next hour, the council showed videos and data about human history. They showed wars. They showed bombs dropping on cities. They showed people hurting each other in terrible ways. They showed nuclear explosions that could destroy entire countries. "In 10,000 years of watching young species," said Counselor Mira of the Serenity Collective, "we have never seen anyone build weapons that could destroy their own planet before they learned to live in peace with each other. You created nuclear bombs while you were still fighting over imaginary lines in the dirt." Daniel listened to everything without saying a word. When they finished, he opened his briefcase. "May I show you something?" he asked. Voroth waved one of his limbs. "Go ahead." Daniel pulled out a photograph and held it up. It showed a small blue and white ball floating in black space. "This is Earth," he said. "This picture was taken in 1968 when our astronauts first went far enough into space to look back at our home. When they saw this, something changed in all of us. We saw how small we were, how alone, how precious our little world was." He put down the first photo and took out another. This one showed humans of different colors and nationalities working together on some kind of machine. This was taken 40 years later. These are scientists from countries that used to be enemies. They were working together on a space station that floated above the Earth. We learned something important in those years. We learned that space is so big that it makes our differences seem very small. "Pretty words," Voroth interrupted. "But your violence continues." "Your weapons still exist," yes, Daniel agreed. "We are still learning. We are young. But think about this. Everything you showed me, every war, every terrible thing, was done by humans to other humans. We have never, not one time, hurt another intelligent species. He paused and looked around the room. Can everyone here say the same? Many of the aliens shifted in their seats. Some looked away. I am not saying humans are peaceful, Daniel continued. We are not. I am not promising we will never be a threat. I cannot promise that. I am here to ask you a question. He looked at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. What are you really afraid of? That we will attack you? One small planet against 400 star-traveling civilizations? He shook his head. No, you fear something else. You fear what we might become. Ambassador Kreth's watery form bubbled. And what is that, human? Daniel smiled, and there was something old and knowing in his eyes. You have studied our history. You have seen our wars. But did you really understand what you saw? We went from riding horses to building nuclear weapons in less than 100 years. We went from our first airplane to walking on our moon in 66 years. We figured out how our own bodies work at the tiniest level. We split atoms. We built machines that can think, and we are just getting started. He leaned forward. Every species here grew slowly and carefully. You took thousands of years to do what we did in decades. And you are right to be worried, because we are not going to slow down. Cannot. It is not how we are made. This is exactly why you must be stopped, Vorath declared. Or destroyed. Daniel nodded slowly. You could try. You have the power. But I want you to think about something first. Reached into his briefcase one last time and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with inner light. This crystal contains the complete designs for every weapon humanity has ever made. Every nuclear bomb, every poison, every disease weapon. It also contains designs for weapons we thought about but decided were too dangerous to build. The room exploded with noise. Vorath's mouth parts clicked rapidly. You bring weapon designs to a peace meeting? No, Daniel said calmly. I bring you a choice. This crystal shows what humanity can do when it comes to destruction. I am giving it to you for free. Take it. Study it. You will find things in here that will surprise you. He set the crystal on the platform. Then ask yourselves this question. We created all of this while we were fighting each other. What do you think we might create if we ever had a common enemy? The room went completely silent. Daniel picked up his briefcase and started walking toward the exit. You have 3 days to decide what happens to humanity. I will be in my room if you need me. He stopped at the door and looked back at the hundreds of watching aliens. Remember this? Everything in that crystal we made while we were still babies. Still learning to walk. Still figuring out who we are. We have not even come close to showing what we can really do. He smiled one more time. That should scare you much more than anything we've already done. The door closed behind him, and 400 species started talking at once. The council chamber had never seen such chaos. Every species was talking at once. Some were shouting. Some were making strange sounds that their translators could not handle. The noise was so loud that the floating lights in the ceiling flickered. High Arbiter. Vorath slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. The boom was loud enough to shake the walls. Silence. We will have silence. The noise slowly died down, though many aliens kept whispering to each other. The human has said what he came to say, Vorath announced. Now we must discuss what to do. Our scientists will study the data crystal. For now, I open the floor for arguments. Counselor Myra stood up first. Her species looked almost human, but her skin was very pale and her eyes were completely white. The human's speech changes nothing. He admitted that humanity cannot control their violent nature. He showed arrogance by coming alone, and he basically threatened us by showing us their weapons. I did not hear a threat, said a new voice. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was Elder Yana from the Communion of Endless Stars. She was very small, barely 1 meter tall, with golden skin that seemed to glow. Her species was known for being peaceful and wise. She had been on the council for over 300 years. The human gave us information, Elder Yana said. He showed us truth. That is not a threat. That is trust. Trust. Vorath made a clicking sound, or a trick. Think about what he did. Elder Yana slowly stood from her seat. He came alone. Why? Our information says humans could have sent many representatives. They chose not to, because they are arrogant. Counselor Myra said again, or because they are confident. Those are very different things. Elder Yana walked toward the speaking platform. In 300 years on this council, I have watched many species try to join the galactic community. They come with armies and fleets. They try to scare us or make us like them. None of them ever did what this human did. What did he do that was so special? He told us the truth. Elder Yana touched the data crystal that Daniel had left behind. He did not say humans are peaceful. He did not pretend they are not dangerous. He simply said, this is what we are, this is what we can do, and this is what we might be. Ecom, now you decide. Ambassador Kreth's watery body bubbled with anger. And you think this is good? He basically said they could become more dangerous than anything we have ever seen, as Elder Yana agreed. And he said this knowing we could destroy his entire species before they become that dangerous. What does that tell you about him? About all humans? The chamber went quiet as everyone thought about this. They are either very stupid, Vorath said slowly, or very brave, Thor. Elder Yana suggested they understand something we have forgotten. That real strength comes from being honest about your weaknesses. While the council was arguing, Daniel Cole sat in his small room on the ship that had brought him to Nexus Prime. The ship was called the Humble Approach, and it was tiny compared to the alien vessels that filled the space station. Daniel was reading a book and drinking coffee. The door made a sound. "Come in," Daniel said without looking up. The door opened, and a strange being entered. It was shaped like a human, but its skin was dark purple and seemed to flow like liquid. It had 7 eyes that all looked at Daniel at the same time. "Ambassador Cole," the being said, "I am Truth Seeker Omega from the Collective of Hidden Truths. May I talk with you?" Daniel put down his book. "Of course. Please, sit down. Can I get you something to drink?" "I only have coffee, tea, and water." "Water is fine." Omega folded itself into something like a sitting position. "I have been thinking about what you said in the council chamber. It was very unusual. People keep telling me that." Daniel poured 2 glasses of water and gave one to his guest. "I guess you are here to study me more." "My species can tell when people are lying. The council often asks us to check if diplomats are telling the truth. And what did you find out about me?" Omega's 7 eyes blinked one after another. "You believed every word you said. You really think humanity could become the biggest threat this galaxy has ever seen? And you were really offering us the chance to stop that. Did I lie about anything?" "No, but you left things out." Daniel smiled. "Everyone leaves things out. The question is whether you leave things out to trick people or just to keep the conversation focused." An interesting point. A mouth appeared somewhere in its flowing body. "Tell me about humans, not facts. I have read all the data. Tell me what it feels like to be human." Daniel thought about the question for a long time. "We are afraid," he said finally. "All the time, we are afraid of dying. We are afraid of being hurt. We are afraid of being alone. We have been afraid since we first became smart enough to understand that we should be afraid. Fear makes many species give up. It makes them weak, not us. Fear makes us fight. It makes us build things. It makes us reach for things we should not be able to touch." Daniel looked at the small window that showed the stars outside. "We went to space because we were afraid of being stuck on one planet. We built nuclear weapons because we were afraid our enemies would build them first. We study medicine because we are afraid of getting sick. We make art because we are afraid of being forgotten." You turn fear into action, into everything. Every great thing humans have ever done started with someone being afraid of something and deciding to do something about it. Omega's purple body rippled as it thought. What if you had nothing left to fear? Then we would find something new to be afraid of. Or we would create it. Daniel looked into Omega's many eyes. That is what the council does not understand. They think if they threaten us, we will give up. But threats just give us something to fight against. Something to overcome. That is how we are built. You're saying that threatening humanity would be a mistake. I am saying it might be the worst mistake this council could ever make. Not because we would win. We probably would not. Not right now. But because we would learn, we would change. We would remember. And humanity has a very, very long memory. Omega sat quietly for several minutes. Then it stood up. Thank you for the water, Ambassador Cole, and for being honest. Will you tell the council about our talk? I will tell them my opinion. That you are the most dangerous diplomat I have ever met, because you only tell the truth. Omega stopped at the door. Your plan is very clever. By being completely honest about how violent humans can be, you have made it impossible for the council to attack you without becoming the very thing they say they hate. Daniel picked up his book again. I am just telling people what we are. What they do with that is up to them. Yes, that is what makes it work so well. After Omega left, Daniel sat alone for a long time. Looking at the stars, he thought about his daughter Emma back on Earth. She was 7 years old. Before he left, she had asked him if the aliens would be nice. I do not know, he had told her. But I am going to try to make them give us a chance. He thought about his wife Catherine, who had helped him get ready for this trip. They will try to scare you, she had said. Show them that humans do not scare easily. He thought about the billions of people on Earth who had no idea how close they were to being destroyed. People who were living normal lives, falling in love, having children, making music, making mistakes, growing. We are worth saving, he said quietly to the stars. We are messy and violent and scared, but we are worth saving. I just have to make them see that. The stars did not answer. Daniel had not expected them to. He went back to his book and waited for the council to make their choice. The scientists of the hegemony worked for 2 full days studying the data crystal that Daniel had given them. These were the smartest beings from 400 different civilizations. They had computers powerful enough to create fake universes. They had studied science for millions of years. When they came out of their laboratory, they looked scared. Lead analyst Kira was chosen to present their findings. Her species had changed their own bodies over thousands of years to make themselves smarter. She had 6 fingers on each hand and a brain 3 times larger than a human brain. But her voice shook as she spoke to the council. The weapon designs are real, Kira began. We checked all of them. The humans really did create nuclear weapons. They really did make poisons and disease weapons. Everything in the crystal is true. We already knew that, Voroth said with impatience. What else? Kira paused. The theoretical weapons. The ones they said were too dangerous to build. Go on. They are beyond anything we've ever seen. Kira turned on a display screen that showed complicated drawings and numbers. This design here, they call it a strange leap bomb. It uses a type of matter that, if it was made, would turn all normal matter it touches into more of itself. One bomb could eat an entire planet. Maybe a whole star system. The chamber went completely silent. They thought of this, Kira continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, and decided not to build it. Not because they could not. Because they chose not to. Show us the others, Elder Yana said quietly. Kira did. One after another, she showed weapon ideas that made nuclear bombs look like toys. Weapons that could destroy atoms themselves. Weapons that could make tiny machines that would eat everything they touched. Weapons that could change the basic rules of how the universe worked in small areas. These designs would take us at least 100 years to figure out, Kira explained. Some of them are things we never even thought about. And the humans have not just imagined them. They ran tests on computers. They calculated how much damage they would do. In some cases, they figured out exactly what materials they would need to build them. Why would they give us this information? Ambassador Kreth demanded. We could use it against them, could we? Elder Yana asked. Or did they show us what they are able to hold back? Every weapon in that database exists because some human mind thought of it, and then other human minds decided it should never be real. High Arbiter Voroth's mouth parts clicked in anger. This changes nothing. This proves humanity is too dangerous to let them grow stronger. We should destroy them now while they are still stuck on one planet, and if we fail, Elder Yana asked, what then? We will not fail. Our combined fleets could easily. We need to kill every single human everywhere. All at once, without missing anyone. Elder Yana's golden eyes were hard. Because if even a small group survives, if they escape and hide somewhere in the huge emptiness of space, they will remember. They will rebuild, and they will come back with weapons we cannot imagine. Born from their fear and their grief and their anger. You talk like you have already decided to support them, Vorith accused. I talk like someone who has seen what happens when the hegemony acts from fear instead of wisdom. 3,000 years ago, we thought the Arande species was a threat. We destroyed their home planet. 90 years later, they came back from a colony we did not know about. They burned half the outer reach before we stopped them. The Arande were defeated in the end. After 40 billion people died, and the Arande were not humans. Elder Yana pointed at the display still showing weapon designs. The Arande never created anything like this. They fought with passion, but not with the cold, never-stopping cleverness we see here. Humans do not just want to win. They need to win, and they will find a way no matter how long it takes. The argument continued for hours. Some aliens wanted to attack Earth right away. Others as they should wait and watch. A few, led by Elder Yana, suggested something that had never been done before. They wanted to talk to the humans as equals. Finally, Voreth called for a break. We will meet again in 6 hours. Everyone should think carefully. During the break, Daniel had several visitors in his small room. The first group came from the Marshal, Concordance of Kreth. They were a warrior species who had spent thousands of years conquering worlds and then setting them free. Over and over again. Fighting was basically their religion. Their leader was Commander Vex, a huge armored creature with 4 eyes and arms like tree trunks. We have studied your wars, Vex announced, without any greeting. Your tactics. Your strategies. How willing you are to die for victory. And what did you decide? Daniel asked, offering them seats that barely fit their large bodies. Your species has potential. Vex's 4 eyes studied Daniel with something like respect. You fight without honor, without rules, without limits. You poison your enemy's water. You burn their food. You salt their fields so nothing grows. You use weapons that kill slowly and painfully. You attack civilians and roads and bridges. Yes, we do all of those things. It is wonderful. Daniel blinked in surprise. I am not sure wonderful is the right word. You do not understand. Vex leaned forward. For centuries, we have been looking for enemies worth fighting. Species who would challenge us. Who would make us better warriors? We found none. Every species we meet either gives up immediately or fights by predictable rules that make winning easy. In humans, humans would fight dirty. You would not just try to beat us. You would try to destroy us so completely that we could never be a threat again. You would use every advantage, exploit every weakness, commit every terrible act if you thought it was necessary to survive. You are describing our worst qualities. No, Vex's mouth spread into what Daniel recognized as a smile. I am describing your strength. You do not fight for honor or glory. You fight to win, to survive, to protect what you love. That makes you the most dangerous enemy and the most valuable friend. After the Concordance left, Counselor Mira of the Serenity Collective came to visit. I have come to understand you, she announced, sitting in a meditation pose across from him. Please, tell me what you have learned. You are afraid. Mira's pale face showed no judgment. Not of us specifically, of everything. Your entire species lives in constant worry that you have learned to use as fuel. That is fairly accurate. It is also why you must be controlled. Species driven by fear are unpredictable. They attack threats that might not be real. They build weapons against enemies who may never come. They prepare for wars that do not need to be fought. And your species does not do these things. We found peace long ago. We realized that fear is a choice. We chose differently. We exist in harmony with ourselves and the universe. Daniel leaned back. How many planets does your collective live on? 7. And how long have you been traveling through space? About 40,000 years. So in 40,000 years, you have spread to 7 worlds. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Humanity has been in space for less than a century. We already have people living on our moon and have sent machines to every planet in our system. If we survive the next 100 years, we will probably be on a dozen worlds. This is exactly the problem. You expand too fast, too dangerously, or maybe you expand too slow, too carefully. Daniel met her eyes. Your species found harmony by choosing not to grow. You are comfortable, content, safe, but you are also stuck. In 40,000 years, what have you actually done? Myra's face changed slightly. It was the first real emotion Daniel had seen from her. We have found peace. You have found paralysis. There is a difference. Daniel stood and walked to his small window. Humanity is messy and violent and afraid, and maybe we will destroy ourselves before we ever become like you. But at least we are trying. At least we are reaching for something, even if we do not know what it is. You reach blindly into the darkness. You might grab something terrible, or something wonderful. We will not know until we try. He turned back to face her. That is the difference between us. You decided that peace is the destination. We think it might just be a stop along the way, and we are curious about what comes next. Mira stood gracefully. Your curiosity might doom us all, maybe, but it might also save us all. That is the gamble of being alive. After she left, Daniel sat alone again, waiting. The council would meet soon, and they would decide if humanity would live or die. He thought about human history, all the terrible things people had done to each other, but also the beautiful things. The stranger who risks their life to save someone they do not know, the nations that help rebuild their former enemies, the species that reaches for the stars even though they know how small and weak they are. We are not perfect, he said quietly. We may never be, but we are not finished yet. We are still becoming whatever we are going to be. All we need is time. The question was whether the council would give them that time. The council met again with tension thick in the air. 400 species sat in their places, and the weight of their attention pressed down on the central platform where High Arbiter Vorath stood. We have heard all the arguments, Vorath announced. We have studied all the evidence. Now it is time to decide what happens to humanity. He waved one of his limbs, and the huge display screens around the chamber lit up with voting options. There are 3 choices, Vorath continued. First, we attack immediately and destroy the human threat before it can grow. Second, we build a wall around their star system. We let them live, but never let them leave. We watch them forever. Third, we let humanity join the galactic community, but with strict rules and close watching. I want a 4th option, Elder Yana announced. Standing from her seat, whispers spread through the chamber. There is no 4th option, Vorath said dismissively. There should be. Full membership. No rules, no limits, complete equality with every other species in the hegemony. The chamber exploded with noise. Vorath hit his staff against the floor many times before everyone quieted down. That has never been done before, Vorath declared. Every new species must wait at least 1,000 years before getting full membership. Then it is time to do something new. Elder Yana walked toward the central platform. Her small golden body somehow commanded attention from every eye in the room. I ask that the human ambassadors speak to this council one last time. That is not how we do things. It is my right as a senior counselor. Elder Yana's voice was quiet but strong. I used the protocol of direct address. Let the humans speak. The silence that followed was complete. That protocol had not been used in centuries. Fine, Vorath said at last. Bring the human. Daniel Cole entered the chamber 10 minutes later. He had changed into more formal clothes, still human in style, but clearly meant for this important moment. He walked with the same calm confidence he had shown before, but his face was more serious. Ambassador Cole, Elder Yana said, you stand before this council as the only voice for your entire species. In the next hour, we will vote on the future of humanity. Before that vote, I have asked you to speak one more time. Use this chance well. Daniel nodded and stepped onto the speaking platform. He looked around the vast chamber at the representatives of civilizations that had existed longer than humanity had been walking upright. I have had 3 days to think about what to say right now, he began. I thought about arguments and reasons. I thought about all the ways I might convince you to let my people live. He paused. But I decided that this moment does not need more arguments. You have heard them all. You know what we are? What I can offer now is something simpler. A promise. What promise can one human make that matters to this council? Vorath asked. Not one human. All of us. Through me. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a ring, simple gold, worn with age. This was my grandmother's wedding ring. She survived a war that killed 60 million people. She watched her city burn. She lost her parents, her brothers and sisters, everyone she loved. And afterward, she chose to have children. To believe that the future could be better than the past. He held up the ring. This is humanity, not our weapons, not our wars, not our ability to destroy. This, the choice to hope when hope seems stupid, the choice to build when everything is burning, the choice to love when love only means more to lose. He looked around the chamber. I cannot promise that humanity will never be a threat. I cannot promise we will never disappoint you or scare you or make terrible mistakes, but I can promise this. We will never stop trying to be better than we are. We will never stop reaching. We will never stop hoping. Hope is not a plan, Vorath said. No, it is not. Daniel smiled a little. Hope is a choice. The most human choice there is. It means looking at all the evidence, all the reasons to give up, and choosing to believe that things can get better anyway. He put the ring back in his pocket. You can destroy us. You have that power. But you cannot destroy what we represent. Somewhere out there in space, there will be other young species. Species full of fear and potential, violence and hope. What you do to us today will echo through time. It will tell those future species what kind of galaxy this is. One that helps young species grow, or one that kills them? Out of fear. You speak like our decision affects more than just humanity, Elder Yana observed. It does. Every decision does. That is something we learned from our own history. The choices we make spread outward and affect people and places we will never see. We can try to control those effects. Or we can accept that the future is uncertain and choose to act with wisdom and kindness anyway. Daniel turned to speak directly to Vorath. Hi, Arbiter. You fear what humanity might become. I understand that. But consider this. Every species in this chamber was once young and dangerous. Every one of you could have been destroyed by older, more powerful civilizations who feared what you might become. But you were not. You were given a chance to grow and learn and become what you are today. He spread his hands. That is all I'm asking for. A chance, not a guarantee. Not protection from consequences. Just the opportunity to prove that humanity can be more than our worst moments. He stopped speaking. The chamber waited. Elder Yana stood. I have heard enough. Let us vote. This is not proper procedure, Vorath began. Everything about this situation is new. Let us match it with new actions. Elder Yana's voice carried the weight of 300 years. I move that we vote on full membership for humanity in the hegemony. No conditions. No waiting period. And I vote yes. The chamber stirred. Then, slowly one by one, representatives began recording their votes. The Martial Concordance voted yes. Commander Vex's rough voice echoed through the chamber. They have earned the right to prove themselves in battle. The collective of hidden truths voted yes. Truth Seeker, Omega said simply, they speak truth. That is enough. The Serenity Collective voted no, but Counselor Myra's objection was quiet, almost resigned. The votes continued. Hours passed. Daniel stood without moving on the platform, watching the numbers grow on the big displays. When the last vote was counted, High Arbiter Vorath stood to announce the result. By a vote of 237 to 163, with 47 species choosing not to vote, the council has decided. He paused. His mouth parts clicked in what might have been surprise or annoyance. Humanity is granted full membership in the hegemony of United Worlds. Daniel let out a breath he had not known he was holding. This decision has never been made before. Voroth continued, and carries great risks. Humanity will be watched closely. Any attack on hegemony members will mean we look at this decision again. He looked directly at Daniel. You have been given a chance, human. Do not waste it. We will not. High Arbiter.
Ow.
Daniel bowed his head slightly. On behalf of all humanity, thank you. As he left the chamber, Elder Yana walked beside him. Better than I expected. I just told them the truth. Yes, and that was exactly the right approach. Her golden eyes sparkled with something like amusement. You know, in 300 years on this council, I have never seen anyone threaten 400 civilizations so effectively while seeming to only ask for mercy. I was not threatening anyone, no. You showed them exactly how dangerous humanity can be. Then you showed them that humans can also choose restraint, openness, and trust. You made attacking us seem like the coward's choice. You made accepting us seem like the brave choice. She laughed softly. You manipulated them beautifully. I prefer to think of it as helping them see the truth. Is there a difference? Daniel thought about it. I hope so. I really do. The news reached Earth 3 weeks later. The reaction was mixed. Some people celebrated in the streets. Others hid in their homes, afraid of what contact with aliens might mean. And everywhere, people felt that something big had changed. Daniel Cole came home to find his daughter waiting for him at the airport. Daddy? Emma ran to him, and he picked her up and held her tight. I am home, sweetheart. Did the aliens like you? Some of them did. Others were not sure what to think of me. He set her down and knelt to her level. But they decided to give us a chance. A chance to do what? To show them who we really are, he smiled. The best parts of us, not just the worst. Catherine joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. The whole world is talking about you. They are calling you the man who saved humanity. I did not save anyone. I just bought us time. Time for what? Daniel looked up at the sky, where somewhere far beyond the blue, a universe of possibilities waited. Time to prove that the council made the right choice. In the months that followed, things changed on Earth, not in big dramatic ways. Humanity was still humanity, with all its problems and complications. But there was a new feeling now, a sense of being watched and judged. It brought out both the best and worst in people. Some called for building more weapons, saying Earth needed to protect itself against alien threats. Others wanted to send ships out immediately, claiming humanity's rightful place among the stars. Still others wanted nothing to do with the wider galaxy and demanded isolation. But most people just lived their lives, as they always had. They worked and played and loved and fought and created and destroyed, because that is what humans do. The first hegemony observers arrived 6 months after the council vote. They were a mixed group from many different species, and their job was to watch how humanity handled joining galactic society. They built a small base outside Geneva and began their work. Daniel was made Earth's first official ambassador to the hegemony. It was a job that had not existed before, and he spent most of his time just trying to figure out what it meant. One evening, nearly a year after his return, he had an unexpected visitor, Elder Yana. Daniel stood up from his desk in surprise. I did not know you were on Earth. I arrived this morning. I wanted to see your world for myself. The small golden being looked around his office with curiosity. It is very green. We have been working on that. Cleaning up the environment has become a big priority since the council vote. People figured if we are going to represent humanity to the galaxy, we should probably take better care of our home. Good instinct. Yana sat in a chair that was much too big for her. I have been watching your species since the vote. You are doing well. We are trying. Yes, that is exactly what I see. You try all the time. Without stopping, even when you fail, you try again. It is exhausting to watch. Daniel laughed. I imagine it must be. It is also inspiring. Yana's voice became thoughtful. In my long life, I have seen many species. Most of them reach a point where they are comfortable and stable and happy, and they stop there. They stop growing. They stop changing. They stop reaching. They become frozen and humans. You never stop. Even now, when you have barely begun to understand what joining the galactic community means, you are already planning trips to nearby stars. You are already designing new machines. You are already dreaming of things that do not exist yet. She shook her head. It cannot last forever, you know. Eventually, you will get tired. Maybe. Or maybe we will figure out how to use all that energy for something good. Daniel leaned back in his chair. That is the bet you all made when you voted to let us in. That we would learn to point our drives toward building instead of destroying. Do you think you can win that bet? Daniel thought about his daughter Emma, now 8 years old. Already asking questions about what was out there beyond the stars. He thought about the scientists in laboratories around the world, working on problems that had seemed impossible just a few years ago. He thought about the artists and writers and musicians who were creating works about humanity's new place in the universe. I think we have a chance, he said finally. That is all we ever asked for. Yana stood to leave. And that is exactly what you got. What you do with it will show whether the council's choice was smart or foolish. No pressure. Enormous pressure. But I think you humans do well under pressure. It is one of your stranger qualities. At the door, she stopped and looked back. One more thing, Ambassador Cole. The council's decision has had effects we did not expect throughout the hegemony. Other young species that were told they would have to wait thousands of years before getting full rights, are now asking why humans got special treatment. The old ways are being questioned. Some think this is dangerous. And what do you think? Progress, Yana smiled, which was rare for her species. You have already started to change us just by existing. I find myself curious about what other changes you might bring. After she left, Daniel sat alone in his office for a long time. Outside his window, sun was setting over a world that had just begun to understand how small it was and how big its future might be. His phone buzzed with a message from Catherine. Emma wants to know if the nice alien lady can come for dinner next time. Daniel smiled and typed back. I will ask her. She might say yes. She seems to like us. He turned to look at the photograph on his desk. It was the same image he had shown the council, of Earth seen from space. That small blue ball, home to 8 billion imperfect, struggling, hoping humans. They had a chance now. That was more than they had before. What they made of it would be up to them. In embassies and research stations across the galaxy, representatives of 400 civilizations watched and waited. Some with hope. Some with fear. Some with simple curiosity. Humanity had stepped onto the stage, and the universe held its breath to see what they would do next. On Earth, people went.